30 minutes of power.
Welcome to 30 Minutes of Power, a podcast dedicated to educate, encourage, and inspire godly people to use their power to empower others. Join your hosts, Jori O'Neale and Nicole Salter, as they share powerful insights on how you can use your God-given talents and gifts to make a positive impact in the world. Welcome back to another lovely episode of 30 Minutes of Power. TOP, your one-stop shop for all things educational, inspirational, motivational, empowerment central. I know you're confused. No, Nicole is not with me tonight. No, our co-host, TT Linda, is not with me tonight. No, I done brought my homies, Mr. Terrance D. Wilson and Mr. Donald D. Owens Jr. from the I Still Do Godly Marriage Perspective on Marriage podcast, because we are transitioning people. We are still on that marked versus mocked. And so we're going to have a conversation right now about some experiences that we've all shared, we've all had concerning what it means to be mocked and what it means to be marked, and specifically in terms of our youth and how we can empower them to become leaders in their own communities. And so I couldn't think of two better people to have join this conversation with me than Donald D. Owens Jr., assistant principal in the building, and recently crossed Omega. Oh my gosh, look at her. I don't even know what the sound's supposed to be. I'm such a lay person. Like, I'm just like I have no Greek understanding at all. Like the most Greek that I know was honor societies. Like, I'm such a book person, geek human. Like, Greek, no. Geek, yes. And we got Terrance D. Wilson. I mean, this man is a community activist. People, if you don't know, you better ask somebody. He going around saving the world, one life insurance policy at a time. If you don't know, you better ask somebody. So I want to start off by thanking you guys for joining me today. Although I kind of tricked you, but here we are either way. And I kind of want to talk about this idea of mocked versus marked. And so starting off, I want to have a clear understanding of something that I recently shared with a group of students, because I'm a teacher, right? I'm an educator, and they seem absolutely clueless. And so without any prepping you guys, I want to know what your understanding is of the school to prison pipeline. Have you heard of this phrase before? Do you understand what it is? Especially how it impacts Black and brown youth in America. Whoever wants to jump in, just jump in. But we have to have this conversation so we're all on the same page in order to go forward with the conversation concerning mocked versus marked. So anyone you jump in, do you understand have you ever heard school to prison pipeline?
Oh, all right. I'll go with that. I hear it all the time. And I hear a lot of people who say that they're trying to diminish that, who do a lot of work within the community and within the schools to try to not have that be the reality for a lot of the young men and the women who are in our school systems. But basically, my understanding of the school to prison pipeline is literally the idea that our school systems are not set up for our young Black and brown men in a way that helps them learn and helps them to be educated for their success when it comes to their perspective of who they could be and what they can do, right? A lot of the things that are taught to our young men and women are things that are essentially from another culture that we just try to strive for and be a part of. And a lot of times when we see the positive things within our community and our cultures, it's with people who don't look like us. And when we see the negative things, it's people who do look just like us, which perpetuates the system that, no matter how good I am, no matter what I do, I'm going to end up at this location. And so you have a lot of elementary school kids and middle school kids and high school kids who don't have aspirations to become anything other than what they see, which is what is already in their community or what the media shows them, which is either an athlete or somebody who has to hustle on the street to get by. I did a project my last year as an educator where I asked the students to draw a picture of a scientist, right? And every one of them drew something that looked like Bill Nye the Science Guy, right? The tall, skinny, old white man, right? Even the girls. There was not one picture of a woman or not one picture of a black person. And, from there was my goal to create science. I was a math teacher, to create scientists. So, thankfully we did all the projects and all the experiments that we could do the whole year. At the end of the year, I asked them to draw what a scientist looked like. And thankfully, thank God, they drew themselves. So it's just a perspective type of thing, right? You got to change their perspective. You got to be able to give them something to strive for, and just a way for them to see success within themselves, that they can be something other than what other people think for them to be, right? And there's also the idea of changing how other people kind of see them too, who deal with them, right? It was an image that I saw one time where you have these two police officers where a little white boy's walking by. They're saying, "Have a great day, Johnny." Then the little black boy walk by. They goes, I'll be watching you, kid." And it's like, wow, like even that little bitty piece right there lets that kid know that he doesn't have the same future or possibilities as a white kid, because it's people who are supposed to be protecting them and looking after them already sees him as a villain while he's a little kid just going to school. And so, school to prison pipeline is basically, we're not doing the best that we can in our school systems to prepare these young brown boys, brown and black boys and girls to be the best versions of themselves when they get out of school.
Thank you for all that, and I love the experiment that you did with the scientists. I've seen something similar with asking young people to draw a doctor and a firefighter, and I believe like a jet fighter, right? A pilot in the Air Force. And the teacher conducting an experiment at the end of the year actually brought in people of color who were also women, because the photographs that they drew looked nothing like, right, that group of panelists that came in to share with the students. So I love that. So now we have pretty good definition and idea of the school to prison pipeline. And what I'm right now, I'm motivated for so many reasons, but one of the reasons that motivates me the most is because there's not much that separates any of us, right, from having been the recipient, right, at the end of that pipeline, right? A lot of close calls, a lot of different choices, different right decisions made. But one of I think the major turning points that I've noticed is the impact of what happens when maybe we have been marked, right? Like we've engaged in something maybe we shouldn't have, whatever. How do we then transition from that markedness, right? And sometimes it ends up us being mocked. So we're marked. Now people, they look at us some type of way, right? Just like the young man that Donald talked about. The little white boy went by, "Hey, how you doing, Johnny? Have a nice day." And the little black boy goes by like, "I'm watching you," right? Like just being brown and black in this country, we're already marked. So how do we change our mindset when maybe we've been marked and we've been mocked because of our own choices? Like I've seen the transformative power of student leadership when you give students an opportunity to kind of rise to the occasion, when you give them the opportunities to be their own heroes, right? Like no one is going to come and save these kids. There's no program, there's no council person, there's no mayor, there's no governor that's going to come and save multiple generations of young people. The only thing that's going to save them is empowering them to understand that I have the power to save myself. And so if can any one of you speak to that more, so the transformative power of what does empowerment look like in a young person who's possibly been mocked or marked?
I'll take that. So I can say most of the time it comes from validation. So I'll use me as an example. You know, I got good grades in school. But I was more attracted to the street life than I was the books. What made me stay in school and get good grades was the fact that I was afraid of my mom. You know, so my mom, she was real like not get good grades type thing, but hey, you need to go to school and get a degree. After you get out of high school, that's on you. But I do want you to be successful in life. I was really never told, like some people say, go to school, get good grades, go to a good college, get a good job. I wasn't really told that. You know what I mean? I was just told graduate high school with good grades. It didn't have to be A's or B's, but good grades. You know, graduate with high school, get good grades, and be somebody I can be proud of. You know what I'm saying? So when for young black men that doesn't have a solid male role model in their life, they're looking for validation. And you can get validation from the streets. Your mom can't validate you. Your aunts can't validate you. Your cousins can't validate you. You as a man or a young kid, young man growing up to be a man, you're looking for validation from other men. And that I got from the men in my circle, you know, not taking shots at them or anything, but I come from the women was fighters. So that's how we learned how to fight, the most fight all our battles. But I did have an uncle who taught me how to use my hands, you know, because he taught me to protect the family. That was something that I learned from my uncle, how to protect the family. One of my cousins was one of the biggest players I ever seen. So was my uncle. So what did I emulate? I emulated that. I emulated being a player. I emulated being a fighter, protecting the family. Get out in the streets and do what you got to do. Even though I had the mindset of doing the things at 15, actually had a position in the streets, so where I held power. But at 15, what do you know about power? So for me growing up, it was like, okay, I need to be validated. I got validation from the guys in the streets. I got validation from dealing with a lot of women as I got older, you know, but what it all comes down to it is teaching us how to validate ourselves. And I didn't get to a point to learning how to validate myself until late 30s. I'm 45. So what the things that I see in younger people, I try to hurry up and correct that. You know, give them guidance to where they can now navigate themselves through the things. Because like you said, prison a pipeline. If you think about it, we get up at a certain time so we can go to school at a certain time. So either they're conditioning us to, one, get up and work for somebody because they're not conditioning us to get up and work for ourselves. Two, they tell us when to eat. Three, they tell us what we need to. Now, what we need to study is what they want us to study, not what we need to study that's going to show us how to become this particular person that we seeking to be. That's something that we have to find out on our own or get mentors to guide us in that direction. And then if you think about it, trades. When we was coming up, they had trades in schools, auto mechanics, wood shop, things of that nature. Kids don't have that now, but the community does. So what's stopping somebody from going to a school and saying, hey, I'm doing a mentoring program at my auto shop. And over here, we're trying to get more people in the community involved in going to the schools and having them come in and teaching them trades. Because if you don't get a trade like that, the best place you can get a trade, according to society, is going to be prison. Because most people go to jail, they come back electricians. They come back certified mechanics. They come back able to do things that they could have learned in the streets or learned outside those walls instead of inside those walls. So if we're teaching kids the certain things of validating themselves, then we need to be willing to sit down with them and guide them in that direction. I didn't get guidance until, I had, our dad and everything, but you already know how that was. It pops was like, hey, if it's mine, don't open it. And if I open it, you better not eat the last. You know what I'm saying? I didn't learn a lot about finances until I got like 40 years old. And these are things that we should be teaching kids at 16, 17, 18, or if not even younger. Why we can't teach them how to use, how to save money? If I'm giving you allowance, that's dealing with finances. Teach your kids, put up half into this. You can spend this, but once you spend that, you have no more money. You can't touch what's in savings. Then you get to a certain age, show them how to use their money to make money. That's what I do when I do with the life insurance policies. When we put policies on kids, we not just covering them for the rest of their life. We also showing the parents how their money can help generate more money for their children at a longer time frame. The same policy I'll put on me, if I put on a kid, I'll pay less. For me, I have to pay more. Why? Because I'm older. The kids have more time. So we're solving for different things in this industry and in life. And that's how we just got to understand that most times we have to validate ourselves and not look for validation from other people.
I like that. So my thought is, how do we get that in the schools, right? So as a high school teacher, most of the school day is filled up with things that they have to do, tests that they have to take, papers that they have to fill, right? Like, and I'm an early college high school. So by 10th grade, the kids are already exposed to speech classes at college, right? So Donald, you're an assistant principal at an elementary school, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so what type of initiatives or programs have you all put in place or are in discussion for the upcoming school year that'll help kind of address this whole issue of a lack of validation? Or I'm not going to come from a deficit. I'm going to say, what programs or initiatives do you see forthcoming that will help empower students to kind of make their own decisions and then become more autonomous?
Yeah. That's a question that is easier asked than to answer. Because what happens is, when it comes to education, there has to be a mindset shift, right? There has to be a way that educators understand that it's not just about teaching the content, testing the content, and passing or failing students. In a sense, especially after the pandemic right now, it almost seems like every teacher needs some type of counseling certification. And, basically, what was the forward-thinking method of having restorative practices and restorative conversations with students, and holding peace circles in the classroom, and having social emotional curriculum is now the standard. It's the base, right? You cannot have an effective school year, an effective school day without tapping to at least one or two of those tools. It's almost impossible. As a lot of math and science teachers are very stringent and very about the content, about the content, about the content. But if that human being, that teacher, that educator can't see that the class is on fire because 5 or 6 different kids are having an emotional breakdown, and they're going to send 7 other kids off because of their sharp tongues, you're never going to be able to teach that class. So you have to have some sort of school-wide curriculum or initiative where every teacher in that building, every staff in that building is doing something to effectively teach these kids how to regulate their emotions and how to regulate their thought process, and how to find out or how to figure out for themselves eventually what should they do at a certain time given a certain set of issues, right? And then there needs to be some additional training for teachers and other staff members on how to deal with certain students who just need that extra support, right? To where, yes, they understand what's going on, but unfortunately, somebody's doing something to them at home, or they have an older brother who just got killed, or they only eat one meal a day and that's in the school, right? These things are real. And so just to ignore it is not going to be feasible, because I think with the pandemic, and then the introduction of being online for so long and being glued to it, and having all of these different social media aspects as influences, this generation of children have become emboldened to literally speak their mind without thinking of any consequences of what comes out of their mouth, or even feeling like what they're saying really has an impact on the other human beings that they're saying it to. They're just speaking what they believe is their truth. And so, we gotta learn, we gotta find a way to get back to where, common sense is common. And understanding how to treat other human beings as as true human beings is the norm. And so it's a long uphill battle. But once we get there, we cannot say, well, the work is done, so let's pull back. We gotta be able to make it sustainable.
And so, thinking about ways to make things sustainable. So Terry, you shared that you didn't learn how to validate yourself until well into your 30s, right? And so, briefly, could you tell me, like, what tools or resources were helpful in you learning that, and if those things you believe can possibly be embedded or taught much earlier?
I went to counseling.
Okay. And
Uh,
so if the children got counseling, because all the things that Donald just mentioned in terms of, what food scarcity, trauma, right, death of a loved one, all that childhood trauma, your resource, your main resource was counseling therapy. Is this accurate?
so for me, it was looking back on my constant mistakes. So I had counseling. Yeah, that was like the primary thing, is go to counseling. So no matter what, I went to counseling. But some of the things that the counselor had me do was talk about my past. Accept your past, identify your past, and see where you're going and see where you're at right now. And what I realized, that during my past, I was doing the same things, and it stemmed from abandonment issues. So, like you said, loss of a loved one, that was my biggest abandonment issue when we lost our grandmother. My grandma was my best friend. You know what I mean? It's like I was able to talk to her about any and everything. Even when I was doing things I shouldn't have been doing, she was still behind me, pushing me to be better. That was the only reason I went to college. Minus, it was two chicks that I met prior to me graduating high school that I wanted, but that's the mindset that I had at 18. You know what I'm saying? So dealing with those things that most men don't want to accept, not self-love, that doesn't just require a woman doing self-love, it also requires a man too. So I had to deal with not loving myself. I had to deal with not was, and I didn't know who I was because I didn't know my biological father. You know, and dealing with abandonment issues, all those, it created, every time somebody got close to me, I'll do something to push them away. So as if I would have figured that out as a kid, or at the time of the issue of happening, then I could have been able to have somebody maybe help me deal with those things. And what it really comes from is people are going to leave you. You have to accept that people are going to die. Your friends is going to no longer be your friends as you get older, because you grow apart. That you had in common, you might not have in common no more. Doesn't mean that they don't like you. It just means that they're not as tight as you used to be. So what I would say, far as what can be used to help the kid, is somebody who can be there during the time of loss, allowing them to express themselves, and not judging them in the process of expressing themselves. Because that's a lot of one of the issues that I had as well is when I tried to express myself, if I felt like you was judging me, I wouldn't do it, which caused all that stuff to be built up, caused more anger, more rage, and everything. And then next thing you know, it's like a firecracker. You light the fuse, it's gonna blow. So I had to rethink and redo everything, you know. And when I say redo everything, the meaning is if you know the route that you've been going and you start to do certain things and it caused the same results, then stop. Just stop. Because you haven't done it to cause that result yet, but you're going down that path. Just stop and think about what's next. I know if I've been doing this for 10 years, and every 10 years I deal with the situation. Every 10 years, every 10 years, every 10 years, every 2 years, every 3 years, whatever it may be. Just stop and do something different. But do something that's going to be productive. Because a lot of times people do things that's self-sabotage. So you'll self-destruct any minute. So for me, like what I do with young people right now is I try to find out what their triggers are. What's really bothering them. And it takes time because some people, you know, they've been through so much at an early age, you don't know how to quite grasp it. But if you've been through certain things, and one thing I learned, the first thing you should always say is, I understand. And what I'm hearing is, and you give it back to them. Don't give it back to them as, come on, man, you can do better than that. Nah, don't do that. Because that's going to make them put up a defense, a wall to where they're not going to talk to you anymore. But make sure you let them know you understand what they're saying. You may not understand where they're coming from, but you understand what they're saying. And then you try to give them tools to deal with certain things. Like now, I'm a big reader now. You couldn't catch me reading books at 35. Unless it was a manual and trying to put something together. And me being a man, I only seen the pictures. I didn't even read the words. You know what I'm saying? So by me being a big reader now, I find reading helps me deal with a mindset. It helps me sharpen my mind and guide my mind to where I wanted to be, not to where it used to be. You know, so it's a lot of things that you can do. Always, I would tell a parent or a person who want to be a mentor, always bring in something positive. Even when you criticize them or you're trying to correct them, it's a thing called bun meet bun. Something great, something that they did poorly, but then something that you can do to correct that poorly that's going to make them even better. So I learned that being in a life insurance agent, dealing with the company that I'm with. They teach us things of that nature on how to deal with clients and how to deal with people. And there's a lot of books that we read. So I don't know if I think I went on a tangent again, but definitely for me, counseling is definitely the foremost. Always don't let them drug your kid, but let them counsel your kid. Because I feel like they give Black people and brown people drugs just to put it on a record. And once it's on a record, it messes them up for life insurance. It messes them up for medical insurance. It messes them up for a lot of things. Even when you go apply for a job, you know, they ask, have you ever been in psychiatric, took medicine for whatever. I mean, that's you putting that on a kid that's not supposed to be on the kid. What it is just give them some damn love. Give them some love and guide them. Don't let them drug them up. But that's it. I'm done talking. I'll
stop. I love it. He's like, listen, let them counsel your kids. No drugs. Hugs, no drugs. Hugs, no drugs. I love it. I got so much from what you said. So self-love, validation. Donald, you said to treat children like humans. Not tasks, not to-do lists, not little computers to output what you put in, but to treat them like humans. Terry, you said in order for a child to thrive and kind of explore and figure out like what triggers them, even maybe what makes them happy, right? Is a safe space and a lack of judgment. A lot of self-reflection, it seemed. You were saying, like, if you see yourself going over the same patterns over and over again, like stop and shift directions. You use reflective responses, right? What I hear you saying is, right, so making sure that you truly do understand what this young person is saying, and then giving them the tools, right? And that's part of the empowerment, teaching them how to do it for themselves, right? As a young person, maybe we do have to do for them for a while, but after a certain point, they need to learn how to do it for themselves. And the bun meat bun, I always call it the sandwich method, right? Bread, one good thing, one not so good thing, and then one more good thing to round it off. I love all that. So last question that I have, where do you see the state of education in the next 5 years if we don't do something different?
Oh man, I'm not used to your last question being like this. I was gonna say communicate. But switching gears. Man, if we can't come together and get it right, I really see the next 5 years of education really being man, just really pumping out ill-prepared individuals for life, period. And like we need to spend the next few years, the next 5 years, trying to figure out how to build our students up from the inside out and not just teach the content. I know there's a lot of learning loss out there, and a lot of kids are 2, 3, 4, 5 grades behind, but they're never going to make it to the point where they need to be if they can't, as a human being, get themselves together emotionally. And that's where I'm at with it. We have a lot of old school educators that have to jump on board with being able to learn how to teach the entire child, right? And not just be academic focused. And if I hate for saying this, but if they can't jump on board, then they need to go ahead and start moving aside and start making a way for some of these younger kids and this new generation of educators to step up, who understand the importance of it and just get it done. And so, I think that's where we need to be. Either we switch the gears and do it right, or we're gonna have to do a lot of backtracking and fixing for the next 15, 20 years.
Harry, same question. Next 5 years, where do you see us going in terms of education and educating and preparing young people with the current state that we're in terms of learning?
As much as I hate to say this, I see us in a world of destruction. And I say that because if we can't get a hold on this concept of education, because education doesn't always mean books, but if we can't get a hold on it, then our children is going to be set up for failure, because what's going to happen is all they're going to know is how to survive. And as we know, as things get more expensive and the lack of income stays the same, now we got to go out and become hunters. And hunting doesn't always mean go and get a job. If we can't teach them how to become entrepreneurs, then they're criminals. They're going to take what they need. And it's not that they're taking everything that they want. They're just taking what they need, because eventually they're going to have families too. And we are all in a situation of surviving. And what I feel like we need to do is put ourselves in a situation to thrive. I tell myself all the time, even when people say, when they tell me they surviving, I'm like, not me, bro, I'm living. Because I refuse to put myself in a mindset of being a survivor. You know what I mean? I want to live life. I'm not surviving life. I want to live it. I want to enjoy what I got. I want to make more. I want more. I want other people to enjoy what they can have. This book that we're reading right now is called The Magic of Baking. I do believe I have it sitting right here. Yes, I do. I do. This book right here. And I know you guys who listen can't see it, but I'm pretty sure my wonderful sister's going to find a way for you guys to see what it is. That book has changed the way I think in the past 2 weeks. I could paint a picture in my head right now of everything I want, but I can tell you something simple. I have a big house on 5 acres of land. What do you see? You see a big house on land, right? But if I tell you I have a big house with a 3-car garage on 5 acres of land, with a guest house in the back, a big swimming pool, trees surrounding the fence line, animals as a farm, now what do you see? You see that. You see exactly what I just said. I painted that picture with the words by describing what I have on my land. Why we can't think about what we can have as we go forward? Why we can't think about where our vision is, your job, your goals, whatever it is that you want. I want to be this top insurance guy. But in order for me to be there, I got to put myself there and think of all the things that I'm going to have. And in the process of everything I got to go through to get there, I got to be willing to get to that top. So if we don't teach our kids now, because it's going to take more than just 3 people to get the education system to change. And in the next 5 years, I don't see us 3 able to change the education system that much. So therefore, we need to teach our children how to become leaders and do the things that is going to get them to the top. And in the process, but we got to learn how to teach them to teach others. Because that's one thing. I can have all the knowledge in the world, but if I don't teach Donald and Jori how to do the same thing I'm doing, at least give them the tools to do it, then what am I doing? I'm setting them up for failure as well. But that's what I feel about the education in the next 5 years.
Well, brother, I think it was divine that you just mentioned what you mentioned, because I actually have put together a leadership program for children over the summer to ensure that there's no learning loss. It is called Diversion Leadership Program. It is geared towards students who are between ages of 13 and 17 years old, and we actually go over leadership skills as well as civic responsibility. So it's not just me getting to fish, it's me learning to fish and then helping somebody else learn to fish, who's going to then help somebody else learn to fish. And so the fact that this wasn't planned, I didn't tell you what he's going to be talking about, and I didn't tell you about this program. This is like, you just boom, you just set that up and like, woo, it was a beautiful pitch. So happy. So I can't say that the 3 of us will not transform the education system in the next 5 years. I will say that we won't do it alone, but I can't say that we won't change it, because the program that I'm creating, it infuses restorative justice, social emotional learning, as well as divergence. And so that is a word that maybe many people don't know about, but in most juvenile justice systems, divergence is what they get instead of. So the consequence they get instead of jail time is a way for them to heal and repair the community through some sort of act, right, of service to the community. And so it's almost like a wraparound program. But what my program is diverting children from becoming helpless. It's diverting them from becoming individuals who aren't able to be autonomous learners, right? It's diverting them from that path of foolishness and shifting them and allowing them to step into their greatness and to embrace it. And so it infuses neuro-linguistic programming. This program is, I'm excited about it. And like I said, all my energies are going fully into it. If you are a human who has a child between ages of 13 and 17, you want to learn more about it, you can literally go right now to diversioninitiative.org. Check it out. Again, that website is diversioninitiative.org. Please check it out. We are nationally right now. We're trying to get internationally. That's in the works. But right now we go all 50 states, even Hawaii. We be over there. Alaska, you know what I'm saying? Got some peoples over there. But yeah, I'm super excited about the program, and we're doing our pilot this summer. So if you have a young person between ages of 13 and 17 who you feel would be a perfect candidate for the Diversion Leadership Program, please go to diversioninitiative.org. Check it out. Look us up. And we love to have you. We have actual informational sessions, workshops where I actually go through some of the curriculum, and I teach the students right there on the spot in that 90-minute workshop on ways to shift their thinking, to become more reflective, and to build their leadership skills right there in those 90 minutes. Like, I want the parents to see that it's possible. Because sometimes we don't believe something is possible until we've seen it. Right. So I want to show them that what's possible when you give the proper parameters and environmental conditions for a young person to thrive, not just survive. So I love that you said that, bro. Thank you guys so much. Again, this is 30 Minutes of Power, and we got dudes playing with us now. I'm so excited. So excited. So this is a podcast that used to be for godly women to encourage and inspire other godly women to pursue their passions. And it is now a podcast for godly humans who are empowered to go out and empower others. And so blessed to have you two on the podcast. Donald D. Owens Jr., Terrance D. Wilson, and me, Jori O'Neale. Until next time, people, go out and be an empowered person using your power to empower others. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to 30 Minutes of Power. We hope you found today's episode informative and inspiring. To stay connected with us and continue the conversation, follow us on Instagram at 30 Minutes of Power or email us at azironsharpensiron@gmail.com. Don't forget to visit our website at azisi.org to learn more about our mission and how you can get involved. Remember, your power can make a difference in the world. Let's be folks out there using our power to empower others.
30 minutes of power.